Another swing and a miss by Democrats. They are so blinded by orange man bad syndrome. They released all these Epstein emails thinking we finally got him, but they might actually prove that not only did Trump do nothing wrong, he may have actually worked with law enforcement to lock Epstein up, proving he may actually be the hero of this story, not the villain. We're going to explain all of that, and it all starts right now. Welcome back to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Happy to be back with you. Listen, the cabin was nice, okay, but I know you appreciate the better video and audio quality than what we were getting with that internet. Happy to be back with you guys. So obviously everyone is talking about these Jeffrey Epstein emails, and I think that what the Democrats did was they had this big file and they were trying to think of searchable terms, and they just searched the word Trump and they were like, got him. We got him. He's in here. His name is in here. We're going to release it. And didn't even bother to look at any of the context of any of this, nor did they bother to look at who else may have been implicated. And I mean actually implicated, not just their name being searchable in this document. And so, you know, looking into this more, now that we've had some time to dissect it, now that we've had some time to go through it, now that, you know, Republicans have said, oh, okay, fine. You want to release some redacted versions to shape some narrative, that's fine. We'll just release the unredacted. And so now there's proof out there of wrongdoing of some Democrats. You're going to be shocked to hear some of these Democrats who we've heard for years were associates of Jeffrey Epstein were in fact associates of Jeffrey Epstein. And so when you look at who else may be, I don't know, implicated, you also have to consider this man. By the way, you look at this and you're like, how is this guy a giant financier? And he just doesn't, he's making typos all the time. He doesn't grammatically, he can't even make sense. I mean, these are like typo-ridden ramblings of a man who we know is a criminal, a liar, a narcissist, and a pedophile. So I have to wonder, like, how much should we actually be taking his word as gospel, Democrats? Case in point, the Thanksgiving email from 2017. This lady, Faith Cates, as you guys can see in these emails, asks, where are you having Thanksgiving? Who else is down there? Epstein responds, David Feisen, Hansen, Trump. So the Democrats were very quick to put this out. They're like, oh my gosh, Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump spent Thanksgiving together in 2017. You see all of these Democrats latching onto it. We got him. Except, you know, we just have proof of where Donald Trump was and what he was doing on Thanksgiving of 2017 because he was the president of the United States of America. And it turns out he had a very public schedule that everyone could go and double check. Is that actually true? And it turns out, according to the public schedule, he spent all day either at Mar-a-Lago or at public events around Florida. You see all of this timeline. Jeffrey Epstein was not in there. And, you know, you might then say, well, why should we just believe what was written in a schedule? Well, there's also photos. There's like a bunch of photos of where he was at. Because again, the man was president of the United States of America. He didn't go anywhere that wasn't like tracked. So we can actually just go back to those. So it turns out, you're going to be shocked to hear this, maybe we shouldn't trust sex traffickers to tell the truth. Maybe we shouldn't trust criminals to tell the truth. Huh, who would have thought? So you have this 9 a.m. thank members of the military via video teleconference from Mar-a-Lago. You have 10:18 a.m. President and First Lady thank the Coast Guard for their work during the hurricanes. And then he had dinner with his family at Mar-a-Lago that night. So, sorry, this isn't the scandal that you think it is. Now, this goes both ways. They say these emails should be taken as the truth and nothing but the truth. So, hey, you know what, Democrats? Let's do that. Let's go there. And as usual, when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, it all goes back to the Clintons. There is another very interesting email between Michael Wolff, who we talked about yesterday, the super serious journalist Michael Wolff, and Jeffrey Epstein. He says, what's the thumbnail on Nussbaum Foster? And Jeffrey Epstein responds, Nussbaum White House counsel, Hillary doing naughties with Vince. Now, if you're like me, you don't want to think about Hillary Clinton having sex with anyone, but It sounds to me Hillary doing naughties with Vince, if we go back to the timeline that we were in, and we know that there was Vince Foster who was around. Hillary was having sex with that guy, I guess. And in case you need a history lesson, that guy right there was a prominent lawyer in Arkansas, a friend of the Clintons. He became deputy White House counsel in Clinton's first term, and he ended up managing these legal aspects of the Clintons' personal finances, including the Whitewater investment, which was this giant real estate financial scandal from the 70s, and it collapsed. But when it was exposed and investigated in the early 90s, that then led to them uncovering the Monica Lewinsky scandal. And then, of course, that all transpired and led to the impeachment of Bill Clinton. And in 1993, Vince Foster killed himself mysteriously. Or did he? I don't know. All I know is that there are a lot of people who are around the Clintons who end up mysteriously suicided, including Vince Foster, who apparently, according to Jeffrey Epstein, was doing the naughty with Hillary Clinton. So I'm just saying, I guess this is all true. If the Democrats want to take all of this at his word, okay, let's go there. Also, Jeffrey Epstein said in emails that he had been advising the Russian government on how to deal with Donald Trump. Oh, well, that's strange. I thought that Donald Trump was the Russian stooge. I thought that Donald Trump was the Putin puppet. Now, all of a sudden, it was actually Jeffrey Epstein who was advising the Russian government. Of course, once again proving that Russiagate was all a hoax perpetuated by President Trump's many enemies. Now, we also curiously found out that Jeffrey Epstein was in contact with Kathy Rumler, who was a principal deputy White House counsel and then White House counsel to President Barack Obama, who, as it turns out, also had something to do with Russiagate. Thanks to Tulsi Gabbard, we know that. And Jeffrey Epstein told Kathy, who was connected to Barack Obama, I know how dirty Donald Trump is. And as you can see in this email, he goes on and tries to feed her a bunch of dirt there too. Everyone looking for Trump in this email dump. And they don't realize that this is implicating Barack Obama in here as well. Another email with Kathy curiously says, he says, you need to talk to boss. So he's saying this to Kathy, who works for Barack Obama. I wonder who boss could be. It's another 10% for the big man. Who's the big man? Joe Biden. Who's boss? Barack Obama. Kathy says, agreed, but I need to be prepared to say yes before I talk to him. Now, we don't know what she's saying yes to. But then he goes on to say, understood. It comes down to high risk reward, low risk reward, professional, emotional, and financial. Kathy goes on to respond, most girls do not have to worry about this crap. And he responds, girls, careful, I will renew an old habit. I don't know what they're talking about, but I sure would like to know what they're talking about, especially since it implicates Kathy Rumler's boss, who happened to be President Barack Obama. That's interesting to me. That's a lot more interesting to me than President Trump saying, or them saying about President Trump, he knew about the girls, and by the way, he kicked me out. He didn't like it. He found out, and he kicked me out, and now I'm not allowed back at Mar-a-Lago. I find this to be far more fascinating. Then he goes on to list a bunch of, I know, Stephen, you had that up, and I didn't get to it. I ranted. I apologize about that, Stephen. He goes on to list people's names. Teal, Summers, Bill Burns, Gordon Brown, Jagland, Council of Europe and Nobel Chairman, Mongolia President, Sultan of Dubai, Leon Black, Woody. And so he goes on to talk about that. I think these are fascinating developments that need to be looked into, congressional Republicans. We also found out that the New York Times reporters were tipping off Jeffrey Epstein about potential investigations into him. This one's from Landon Thomas Jr. He is digging around again. Not clear if it's another book or expanded paperback version. Was asking me all sorts of questions about why you hired Ken Starr. I told him I had no idea. I think he is doing some Trump-related digging too. Financial reporter from the New York Times. Now, again, we are supposed to throw President Trump out. We are supposed what impeach him, write him off as a person because he was ever associated with Jeffrey Epstein, because you have pictures showing him at the same parties as Jeffrey Epstein. And yet, these New York Times reporters are tipping Jeffrey Epstein off. They seem to love him a lot. And that's not a problem? Now, possibly the biggest smoking gun in all of this is that it might actually prove that President Trump was the person who took down Epstein. I want to go back to an email that we showed you yesterday where Jeffrey Epstein said, I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Virginia spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. Now, if you look at what he's actually saying, the phrase is, the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. And I'm 75% there. 75% there would indicate that he is trying to solve something. And he's 75% there to solving something. But we know that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Now, this continues to point toward the fact that President Trump may have been an FBI informant who actually turned Epstein in because, again, I showed you guys this yesterday. I'm going to show you one more time. A few months ago, when we were talking about all of the Epstein files, Mike Johnson seemed to accidentally slip on, he said it so casually, and he very clearly said he was an FBI informant and then had to walk it back. But you can't put the genie back in the bottle. This was a very big revelation from Speaker of the House Mike Johnson.
He's not saying that what Epstein did is a hoax. It's a terrible, unspeakable evil. He believes that himself. When he first heard the rumor, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. He was an FBI informant to try to take this stuff down. The president knows and has great sympathy for the
You see him. He stumbles on his words after he says that. He just stumbled. He said he was an FBI informant who had oh crap, I didn't mean to say that out loud. So when you start piecing that together with what we have today, which is Michael Wolff, who was in some of these emails. We went over them yesterday. We went over them today. He's the journalist who hates President Trump. He has written many books about how much he hates President Trump. And he was in constant communication with Jeffrey Epstein, trying to figure out how to blackmail Donald Trump. Not a very good guy. But even Michael Wolff publicly admitted this.
At that point, Epstein's legal problems began. The police began to investigate him over allegations that he was, that there were underage women coming to his house. Epstein believed that it was Trump who first informed the police about what was going on at Epstein's house. And from that point on, they were nothing but bitter enemies.
And this is what he's telling you. This is one of the instances of what he's telling you. The following that happened.
That is the version of this related by Epstein.
Okay, well, I think now we're getting somewhere. Now. So you have Michael Wolff, who hates President Trump, who loves the sex trafficker. Good friends, he's besties with the sex trafficker. And he says that the sex trafficker really, really thought that President Trump was the one who went to law enforcement about him. In fact, it turned them into enemies. And then you have Mike Johnson, oopsies, accidentally saying that President Trump was an FBI informant. And then you have Jeffrey Epstein's emails that say that he's 75% there. He thinks that Trump had done something. The dog that hasn't barked is Trump. I'm still trying to figure it out. And then we know that they were enemies from that point forward. I don't think the Democrats thought this thing through when they decided to just release all of this. But I mean, I guess they'd have to have brains to be able to think it through. Now, you also have one more here, Bradley Edwards, who represented the Epstein accusers and the victims. He said this.
I can say about President Trump is that he is the only person who, in 2009, when I served a lot of subpoenas on a lot of people, or at least gave notice to some pretty connected people that I wanted to talk to them, he is the only person who picked up the phone and said, let's just talk. I'll give you as much time as you want. I'll tell you what you need to know, and was very helpful in the information that he gave, and gave no indication whatsoever that he was involved in anything untoward whatsoever, but had good information that checked out and that helped us, and that we didn't have to take a deposition of him.
That was in 2009?
That was in 2009.
Guys, listen, I don't know that we're ever going to get a specific answer to this, but all of the evidence that I'm seeing is pointing toward they accidentally vindicated Donald Trump. They accidentally led us to the clues that Donald Trump was the one who turned Jeffrey Epstein in to begin with. I want to let's revisit very quickly the phrase, the dog that hasn't barked, just with this clip that you just saw. Okay. This was from Sherlock Holmes. This was a clue in Sherlock Holmes. And what it references is that the stable guard dog didn't bark on the night of the crime, which meant that the dog must have known the intruder. Otherwise, the dog would have barked. And so with that, look at the context of the email again. It starts to read as though this is an email threat between Epstein and Ghislaine speculating about who turned him in. He's like emailing his closest confidant, trying to figure out where the leak came from. And the dog that hasn't barked is President Trump. Said, I've been thinking about this. You have in mind, Virginia spent hours with him. Has never once been mentioned by the police chief. I'm 75% there. Ghislaine's been thinking about that. I think this is actually poetic. I think this is so poetic that the Democrats released all of this trying to take down Trump. They've done it how many times, how many millions of times can you guys think that you finally got him? It's so poetic. They thought they finally had him. They released thousands of pages of emails and said, this is really going to do him in. And it could be the thing that proves that he was actually the one that was brave enough to stop this guy, to stop this monster once and for all. Buckle up, because Mike Johnson is advancing a vote to release the Epstein files in the House next week. And, it'll be interesting to see how the Democrats play it at that point. Because they've just spent the last, couple of months telling us we have to release the Epstein files. Okay, all right, let's do that. And let's see how that goes for you guys. I don't think it's going to go well. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube, Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Smash the like button and make sure to comment. It'll help us in the algorithm. I'm going to get to our sponsor, and then I want to bring on our panel and see what they think about all of these curious Jeffrey Epstein emails. First, I want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor. So Relief Factor is there for those of you, maybe you've reached the age where things just hurt. They don't feel great. You wake up with knee pain, neck pain, back pain. You wake up and you're like limping, and your significant other is like, what'd you do? And you're like, I don't know, I slept. And now I'm in pain. If that's you, try Relief Factor. It's an all-natural anti-inflammatory. But the thing is that it works for the overwhelming majority of people who use it. And what it does is going to stop pain at the source, which is typically the inflammation in your body. It's not just going to mask it. Go check them out. Get the 3-week quick start pack. 70% of the people who order that go on to keep ordering more. That's how many people it's working for. So the odds are in your favor. It's going to work for you. ReliefFactor.com. It is less than $1 a day to see if you can get out of pain. That is ReliefFactor.com. Welcome to the show. We have Grant Stinchfield, of course, host of Real America's Voice, and a whole lot of other stuff. I say the first one, and then he's on in California.
Podcast.
He's got the podcast. He's doing it all. I don't know how you found more hours in the day than there are, Grant.
Well, I love doing it. It's fun. But my favorite is being right here with you.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree. And we've got the dynamic duo because we've got Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, of course.
I am the Dark Knight.
Dallas County GOP chairman. I loved seeing that you guys were on the schedule together because we're all very good friends. So much so that Grant is emceeing the Dallas County GOP.
Yeah, it's the Christmas event on December the 6th. It will be at the Hangar here in Dallas, and we're going to have Jaco Booyens and Laura Logan because we're going to talk about human and sex trafficking in Texas. It's still a big issue.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And Colonel calls. Hop to action. Yes, sir. I'll be there.
Yeah. Where can people get tickets?
Go to DallasGOP.org, DallasGOP.org.
Perfect. I love it. That's going to be a good time. Make sure you guys go get your tickets. So I just went through all of these Epstein emails, and obviously there's a lot to reflect on that, especially when you consider the context of some of these, especially with the way that people have spoken about President Trump cooperating with law enforcement, about how President Trump, according to one of the most highly profiled victims ever when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, he never did anything wrong as far as she knew. And I want to get your thoughts on that, but I also would like to I would be remiss if I didn't play a Jasmine Crockett clip. She
Our
went,
homie.
Yes. She went to CNN, and of course she's like, all her talking point is blame Republicans. Republicans are bad. Orange man bad. And through it all, I think there's a problem because she's an attorney, allegedly.
She's an attorney?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Does not blow your mind?
Yes.
Like I genuinely, I was like, how is this woman an attorney? They must be handing law degrees out to everyone these days.
As if attorneys didn't have a bad enough reputation. Now they got to lump Jasmine Crockett in with her.
And so let me play her clip on CNN where she doesn't seem to understand A, the details of the story at all, and B, what the word redacted means.
This is an email from April 2nd, 2011. Republicans are saying that victim is Virginia Giuffre. As you know, she died by suicide. She's been very outspoken victim of Jeffrey Epstein. Here's the email right here on your screen. She wrote a book, as you know, and she did not accuse him of any wrongdoing. What do you make of that? And can you confirm that?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, it's redacted who the victim is, so I won't necessarily take the Republicans' word on who it is that's redacted. And I don't know why they would necessarily redact someone's name who is deceased at this point.
The Democrats did that, though. The Democrats redacted.
No. I understand,
okay.
But I'm just saying,
I don't think you do.
Our biggest concern is to actually make sure that we are protecting victims. And obviously, she wrote a book. She told her truth.
She's like, no. I understand that it was the Democrats who redacted because I just said the Republicans redacted because I don't know what the term redacted was because it was, of course, the Republicans who unredacted the name. She is an attorney. But more importantly, it's actually there's something so ghoulish about redacting a name, not to protect victims, but to try to get Donald Trump. Right? I mean, that's what this was. They knew that if they had it unredacted and people saw that this was, in fact, the victim was the same woman who said over and over and over again, President Trump did nothing wrong. I never saw any evidence of that. They knew that they wouldn't be able to, quote, get Trump. And so they, of course, redacted it to hide that fact. And then on top of that, Jasmine Crockett has no idea what she's talking about.
Everything the Democrats have done, and I think we've seen this now over the last 8 years, has been about getting Trump. Everything they do is a setup job. Like nothing is legitimate whatsoever. So even releasing the emails, why don't they just release the emails then? And you got to include a setup job on that one. And that was designed to say, oh, well, who could it be? And, this is really serious when, as you said, it's to use Hillary Clinton's term, a nothing burger if you unredact it.
Right. Exactly right.
It's funny. I think of Proverbs 17 and 28 when I listen to Jasmine Crockett, where it says that even a fool is considered wise when they keep themselves silent and discerning when they don't elevate their tongue. I don't know where this lady and why she continues to get this platform, but how interesting that all of this comes out, Grant and Sarah, all of this comes out after the huge debacle of 42 days when the Democrats, inflicted this pain on the American people for no reason whatsoever. And if Donald Trump was guilty of anything, do you think that since 2016, this would not have been at the forefront? I mean, they had to make up this immense lie about Russia. Right. If you had him dead to rights on this whole Epstein thing, you would have destroyed him back in 2015, 2016. So they are trying to shift that narrative. And part of redacting her name was, again, trying to own that narrative to say, see, maybe there is some there. But it's just, once again, more egg on their faces.
I agree with Colonel. I mean, think about what's happened since this government shutdown started. The American people, by and large, have turned on the Democrats and said, you got nothing out of this, but a lot of pain, economic pain, financial pain. And then they turned the focus on Obamacare, and everybody started to realize, wait, Obamacare's not working either. The subsidies are too expensive. Insurance is still expensive. That never worked out to how we wanted. Everything was collapsing around them. And so, Colonel, I think you hit it spot on. The only reason they decide today, not even a day after, they pass this continuing resolution to keep the government over till January 30th is to take focus away from Democrat failures.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you had, to that point, the vote itself. I don't know if you guys heard, but when they took the vote, there were Democrats who were actually screaming in the gallery. They were screaming because no, because they were that mad that they were voting to reopen the government. And all the while, they're saying that it was a Republican shutdown.
Yeah, and now we see who actually was behind it. Right. I mean, when you say we had 8 Democrats that voted in the Senate to reopen the government, okay, so where did the Republicans come in? And now all of a sudden you go over there and Hakeem Jeffries gets on and he says, we are going to vote against reopening the government. And then he comes up with this line about we cannot afford to allow the Republican health care. No, not a single Republican ever voted for this thing. And now all of a sudden we realize the Affordable Care Act, as you just articulated, is not affordable. They just opened up a can of, I hate to put it this way, whoop ass, using the Bobby Boucher term. They opened up a can of whoop ass on themselves. So what do you have to do? Hey, go back into the book. Let's find something, shift the narrative. Oh, let's talk about Epstein now.
Right.
This is why President Trump called it an Epstein witch hunt. Mm-hmm. And so as I look at this, I'm starting to wonder, was Epstein just a giant hoax, right? Like, I know that he was awful to certain people, and there were certainly victims involved with Epstein, but this whole concoction of just how prolific it was, I don't even know if it's real or not. Like,
well, to your point, I'm not sure if I'm willing to say it was a hoax, because it really did upset me when President Trump acted like, Jeff, what do you mean, Jeffrey Epstein? There's nothing happened. And it's like, I mean, he had enough victims that I do know that something happened. But to your point, when we go through these emails, I just went through there was a one where Jeffrey Epstein said that he was spending Thanksgiving with President Trump. Well, he was president of the United States at that time, and you see his schedule, and there are pictures from where he was. Like, we have a timeline of where he was that day, and he wasn't spending the day. There it is right there. Mm-hmm. He wasn't spending the day with Jeffrey Epstein, but in Jeffrey Epstein's email, he very clearly said he was spending the day with President Trump. So he just flat out lied in that email. Mm-hmm. How many other flat out lies does he have? Because I mean, if you believe some of the conspiracy theories about Jeffrey Epstein, that was kind of his whole point, was to trap all of these high-level people into something. So if you put it on paper and you document it, it must be true. And so then you have to wonder how much of everything else is a total lie.
I think President Trump, too, when he's talking about the witch hunt, was really talking about him.
I agree.
And that this was a witch hunt against him. They're desperate to connect President Trump to Epstein, and it's not going to happen. I mean, even these emails that he's named in, it's like all innocuous.
Right. I know.
It's not what they want you to believe it is.
Right.
Well, it's the Joseph Goebbels theory on propaganda. If you tell a lie often enough, some people will eventually take it as truth. And that's why the Democrats keep going back to this. But this well is dry. Mm-hmm. There is nothing there. And again, I think that it is disingenuous to the American people that they're trying to say that you're so dumb, you're so ignorant that we're going to, squirrel. And you're going to go chase after this squirrel, and you're not going to remember what we just did to you for the past 40 to 45 days.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I saw there was a Fox News put out some calculation of how much it cost the American people for the shutdown to occur. I mean, it was astronomical how much it cost the taxpayers for them to shut down the government.
And they said they're going to do it again. They have already said they're going to do it again at the end of January.
You're kidding.
Yes, they've already come out and said it.
How in the world are we going to be able to come to an agreement with a radical party? I mean, it's been hijacked by radicals, so there is no negotiating with them whatsoever. And quite frankly, the things they want to negotiate are non-negotiables with me if I was in Congress. So how are we going to come to an agreement by January? We're going to go through this again leading into January 30th. They'll be on the clock, and you'll see. I would not be surprised if we get another government shutdown.
Of course. That's what they want.
Do you think Republicans should end the filibuster?
I've thought long and hard about this,
and
I now am at the point where I say, you've got to do it. Because Chuck Schumer's not going to be the leader of the Senate if, God forbid, Republicans take over. You're going to have a radical. They're going to throw it out. We have control now. Get what we need to get done. Do it now. Because once they get in, I'm telling you, they're throwing it out. Does it make sense to have the filibuster? Absolutely, with reasonable people.
Yeah.
There's no more reasonable people on the Democrat side of things anymore.
Yeah. What do you think?
I would say that if you're going to do that, the number one thing you have to do is correct election integrity nationally. Kamala Harris won 12 states where there was no voter ID. Maine just voted to have no voter ID. We've got to eradicate that for federal level elections because you don't want to take a chance of them being in power. Remember when Harry Reid changed the filibuster on judges? And of course, who benefited from that? It It was Donald Trump getting 3 Supreme Court justices in, and they're still kicking themselves about doing that.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I think that's why Grant said I've thought so long about that. I'm like, me too. I struggle with it. I keep struggling with it because
the worst thing a conservative host can do is not have an opinion on something. Okay, that's the worst thing. I've had programming directors that said, you got to take a side. That was the one issue for the first time in like 20 years that it took me a few days. And I told people, I said, I'm going to think about this.
And I understand both positions.
And I've thought about it, and I say it's time to blow it up.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I would say on that is that we don't have to wait for Republicans to set a precedent for the Democrats to seize power and weaponize it and yield it. I mean, or wield it. I'm sorry. They're going to do it anyway.
Correct.
So it's like, okay, if we know that they're going to do it anyway, it's kind of like, okay, well, I mean, the American people voted us in to get a job done, and we need to do it.
And you know what? You fought wars. You win or you lose.
You do.
Yeah.
I played sports. It wasn't life or death, but you win or you lose.
Right.
We got elections. This is why we better freaking win.
Right.
And you know what? I'll put us against them any day of the week. So let's not let them take back the Senate.
Yeah.
This is the one thing I'll say coming back to warfare. Napoleon, he said, never interfere with your enemy when they're in the process of destroying themselves. So what we need to do is strategically think about how we capitalize and exploit this opportunity when the Democrats are in a circular firing squad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're dealing with a party that has, under Joe Biden, well, Obama 3.0, that basically weaponized every single government agency against Republicans, against conservatives. They weaponized the justice system against Donald Trump. They had 91 indictments, 34 felony counts, or was it 36? I can't keep track. My point is they are willing to lie, cheat, and steal to get to their goal because the ends justifies the means for them. If we can just, I don't know, like vote to end the filibuster, I'm just saying, I think they've proven that they will go miles and miles further, even if it is not moral, even if it is not right or just or legal, they'll still do it.
Mm-hmm. And we can just play Barack Obama's clips when he talked about ending the filibuster, especially when he was eulogizing John Lewis. And instead of talking about John Lewis, he talked about ending the filibuster. So say, hey, Barack, we found something we can agree upon. We're going to end the filibuster.
Right.
I think presidents that have complete control probably all want to end the filibuster because it allows them to put their policy through. I'll say this real quickly. Yeah. I'm really angry with John Thune on this provision that he put in the vote. This vote about senators can get $500,000 if they were spied on and they don't know about it. You don't notify them. Now, I'd like to punish the DOJ for spying on United States senators, Democrat or Republican. You can't be spying on elected leaders like that. But we got J6ers who deserve $500,000. Right. We got Trump attorneys who are now like under attack. You got John Eastman looking to be disbarred in California. I'm sure he could use $500,000. Why do you make a special class out of a United States senator? They get $500,000 when the DOJ goes after them?
Come on.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. And I said, too, I think it was Ted Cruz who came out and he was like very upset when he found out that his name was on the list. And it's like, OK, I did not see you have this same energy when you heard about regular Americans who have been spied on. It was only until
he spoke out against them. He actually called those people insurrectionists. You remember?
Well, you're right. You're right. You're right. So it was very curious that all of a sudden Ted Cruz has these high standards and he's very, very mad that the DOJ would dare to spy on the American people. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to be back with more. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Patriot Mobile. So I know both of the gentlemen next to me right now are very, very aware of how great of people Patriot Mobile has. I mean, it's not just the founders, Glenn and Jenny Story. It's like I love all of their employees. They are really, really great people. And they also, they're making it very easy for you, okay? Because Patriot Mobile exists to give you another option so that you're not, when you pay for your cell phone provider, you're not paying Big Mobile, who is going to go take a portion of that money and they're going to fund leftist causes. They do it. I've seen them at the Pride parades. I've seen them at the festivals for trans kids. I've seen them at all of these places. Patriot Mobile actually has been defending faith, family, and freedom while providing the same or better premium network access on all 3 major United States networks. So they've got a whole bunch of plans. You can customize it to your needs, get your whole family on, keep your cell phone number or get a new one, keep your phone or get a new one. And I have been told, it's funny, their marketing doesn't tell me this, I have been told directly by Glenn Story, the CEO, that they will buy you out of your contract. So there's no reason not to go check them out. You can go to patriotmobile.com/Sarah. Use promo code Sarah for a free month of service. That is patriotmobile.com/Sarah. Promo code Sarah. Well, I found this to be fascinating. Speaking of Democrat criminals, another Democrat is getting caught red-handed over mortgage crimes. This is Representative Eric Swalwell. Oh. You hate to see it. Bang, oh, bang. No. Bang, banged, fang, fang, and now mortgage fraud. He has been referred for a federal criminal probe over an alleged mortgage fraud. This is related to his purchase of a $1.2 million home in Washington, D.C. that he claimed as his primary residence, which again, this is these Democrats keep doing. It's like over and over and over again, you're a representative for California, and now all of a sudden your primary residence is in Washington, D.C. Oh, and by the way, how did you afford a $1.2 million home in Washington, D.C. on that, $175,000 salary?
Correct.
That math ain't mathin'. Eric, I just love to see this.
So you heard my argument about Adam Schiff, because Adam Schiff, the senator from California, has the same situation. He claimed his primary residence in D.C. Sometimes I don't think they're lying. I think their primary residence is in D.C. I don't even think they live in California. Adam Schiff has an apartment. He's got a whole family, and he's got a one-bedroom apartment. It's like when you're sneaking your kid into a school district. So he either is ineligible to be a senator from California.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Okay?
That's my point.
You don't live in California. Maybe Swalwell doesn't live in California.
Right. But both of these things can't be true.
Both cannot be true.
Either you're guilty of mortgage fraud or you got to give up your seat.
Do we know how much Eric Swalwell's house is in California? Do we know where he lives there? And if he lives in a little tiny apartment, then they're both ineligible to run for office in California, and they should be immediately removed from office.
I agree, Colonel.
Well, from a military perspective, I've always said that you should just have a barracks for members of Congress in the House and the Senate. It can be like a Staybridge suite. You can have the fold-out couch if you want the family to come up and visit. But I remember when I was in Congress and all these guys were saying, I'm going to live in my office, and they asked me would I do the same. I said, no, the American people are not paying me to have rent to stay in this building. So I think that we should just put them, there are plenty of buildings up in Washington, D.C. that could be converted into some very nice, some barracks for these young
dorms.
ladies, dorms for them, and they do the business that they're supposed to do when they're there, and they leave. But you should not have these, high rises and, rooftop, places. I mean, look at Jasmine Crockett. Now, all of a sudden, she's worth $7 million. And Ocasio-Cortez, she has a beautiful, place that overlooks the National Stadium. So, no. I think we should just put them all in barracks.
This goes for both parties, too, by the way.
Yes, absolutely.
There absolutely are Republicans that are getting rich off the system. This insider trading.
Sorry, you gotta.
Something in your throat?
That's my That's my nemesis. That guy. I really can't stand him.
Isn't he everyone's nemesis?
I think he probably is. Anybody that's a real conservative, he's a nemesis.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Anyway, I didn't mean to derail you.
No. So this is a real problem in Washington. I've actually half joked that if you reined that in, right, where you weren't going to get rich off your position, and you wanted good people to go to Washington that don't have their own $1 million businesses or huge law firms where they can afford to go to Congress, if you don't have a barracks, then you actually probably need to pay members of Congress more. Now, you know how controversial that would be, right? Because $174,000 to the average American family is a lot of money, but you're flying yourself to D.C. You got to get another place to live. You can't have a middle-class guy
I agree.
A member of Congress.
I agree. I agree with that point.
But you get a stipend to run your office between the office in D.C. and the office, and that's the budget that you use for your airline travel. And the other thing is that you don't
just passed a law too that you could use that stipend for housing now, and that's new.
And you should not be booking first class seats.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Or flying private.
Flying private. I mean, put yourself back in the economy like anyone else, or earn points.
Right.
But again, I think that if you want the Mr. or Mrs. Smith goes to Washington, D.C., you got to take the elitism out of it.
Yeah.
And we have not allowed that to happen. We have a political elite class now.
Totally agree. Actually, speaking of that, you had a CNN I think it was Abby Phillip and Joy Reid together Isn't that what everyone was clamoring for? CNN's Abby Phillip and Joy Reid's, I guess she's doing an independent podcast now because she got canned from MSNBC to talk about the Mamdani win. And here's what they had to say about his brand of socialism.
I think that this is a constant battle that is happening within the Democratic Party where they're afraid of the left flank of their own party. But I think when you look at the popularity of Bernie Sanders and someone like Mamdani, both of them, they use the term socialism, which is scary in our politics. But it's democratic socialism. It isn't regular socialism. But my point is that everybody, they're just afraid of the S word, right?
No,
it's cherry cola. It's not Coca-Cola.
It's not regular socialism. It's just like the cool socialism. Don't worry.
That term, democratic socialism, is the stupidest, most ridiculous term ever. All they're doing is trying to dupe you into thinking that somehow it's nice, but you put Democrat in front of it. So now you got two of the worst terms in my mind. Yes. Democrat and socialism. I want nothing to do with it.
I know. It's so laughable. It's like, government-run grocery stores. That's just like a cool socialism light. That's not like communism. Come on.
Let's see. From each according to their ability, to each according to their need, wealth redistribution, nationalizing economic production, creating and expanding welfare nanny state, social egalitarianism, equity, and then secular humanism. How good does that work? Okay. Those are the 5 points of socialism. I don't care if you put democratic in front of it. I don't care if you put crappy in front of it. It's still socialism. Okay.
It's just that it hasn't been tried hard enough. They just need to try it hard enough. That's what they keep saying.
I strenuously object. Remember that line from A Few Good Men? I strenuously object. No, it's overruled. I don't care, what you put in front of objection.
And then these two yahoos, they don't have two brain cells to rub together between the two of them. They're like, no, it's the fun socialism. It'll work great. No, we see how it works every single time you guys try it, and it never ends well, okay? All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to be back with more, but we want to thank our sponsor this segment, PreBorn. So PreBorn, I love PreBorn, and it's so easy to talk about PreBorn because I just get to tell you what they do, and ask you to help them in their mission. So what they're doing is when they have a woman who is scared, she has an unplanned pregnancy, she doesn't know what she's going to do, she can either go into a Planned Parenthood clinic where, well, actually I shouldn't call it a clinic, it's a facility because what they do there has nothing to do with healthcare. They're ending babies' lives. Or she can go into a PreBorn clinic and their network of clinics actually just shows women the truth on ultrasound. This is your baby. It is actually a life. It is your baby. And they listen to the heartbeat. And in that moment, the woman is twice as likely to choose life. So all I'm saying as we get to the end of the year, as we get to those, holiday gifts for I keep saying this, like Aunt Susan doesn't need anything. You guys are all adults. So what you can do is give her the gift of life with PreBorn. $28 is the cost of an ultrasound. So how many babies' lives can you help us save? PreBorn.com/Sarah. You can donate there. Give your friends and family the gift of life. PreBorn.com/Sarah. Well, obviously, President Trump has been trying to clean up the streets, deport all the dangerous illegal criminals, make sure we know who's coming into our country. But I love this new approach. I'm calling it the Hotties only immigration policy. Obese immigrants can be denied U.S. visas under new Trump administration guidelines, report claims.
He likes the Eastern Bloc countries. They don't have any obese. That's all the Melanias coming in, the Russians, Ukrainian girls. They're not going to have
they're going to spin what you just said. They're going to spin it.
Well, I mean, but in all honesty, I joke when I say Hotties only immigration policy, but I do like it. But if they come here and they are dependent on our welfare system and they are dependent on our, taxpayer funds and they're obese, they're just going to become more of a burden on the United States. So
do you guys know this? The average woman on Snap weighs 211 pounds.
That should be a
the average American woman weighs 140 pounds. In my opinion, that's too much too.
Yeah.
But that's not 211 pounds.
Depending on how tall they are.
Depending on how tall they are, absolutely.
There's not a height that you can point to where 211 would be considered healthy.
There's not.
Yeah.
There's not. And that's who's on Snap. So we know that obesity is one of the main drivers of healthcare costs in America today.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, you look at these places that have EBT cards accepted here. You know, it is not the place where you get good quality foods, and that was the whole purpose behind having the food stamp program. I remember down in South Florida, Martin County, Florida, there was an illegal immigrant that almost bankrupt a hospital because they had to provide care for him. They weren't going to turn him around. And then, of course, after about a year and a half, he gets well. He goes back to his home country. He's deported back to his home country, and he files a lawsuit against the hospital. So you're right. If these people are coming here and they have these health care issues, and then all of a sudden they're getting the free health care, who's paying for that?
Right.
And it's not trying to say that we want everyone to come here looking like Baywatch, but if you,
well, I mean, it wouldn't hurt.
Well, it wouldn't hurt, but we don't want. It's just the same as in the military. We have standards, so you coming into the military. If you're flatfoot, you can't come in. If you're obese, sorry, you can't do it. So if you want to come to our country, first of all, we want you to come legally. But if we're going to have stipulations on this thing. No, you cannot stay here and become a burden on our system.
What's the guy's name? Dr. Now, who does the 600-pound life?
Oh,
He could run immigration. He could be the border. I'm sorry, you have not been following the rules. We cannot move you to surgery.
You can't do it. I'm not going to give you the surgery.
No bariatric surgery.
You cannot come in. And to be fair, this particular policy that's being considered is like, it's not just obesity. They're going to look, do you have diabetes? Do you have heart disease? Do you have cancer? I mean, all of these things are going to be a strain on our system.
Remember the rash of illnesses that our children got when we opened up the borders? Okay, that's a big concern.
Yeah.
And we've got to protect our kids. Measles, mumps, chickenpox, all these things that we have pretty much so eradicated.
Yeah. And then, of course, Grant, just to touch on really briefly your point about SNAP, I genuinely, I don't want to feel, I don't want to not care. I don't want to sound like I'm uncaring about people who genuinely are in need. Yeah. But when the SNAP benefits did, siphon off and you had all of these people making TikToks, and I'm like, 90% of these people are obese. And now I'm just pissed off that I'm giving my money in the first place. And I don't want to feel like I'm pissed off because I know that it is helping some people. But I really wish that maybe we just need to burn the whole system down first and then start reassessing who actually needs it. Because if you're obese, I don't need to be paying for your food.
I'm with you on that.
I couldn't believe that it didn't become more of like a national scandal when we were seeing all of these.
Because not only you're paying for their food, you're paying for their health care.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's a never-ending system.
Is it the soundbite of Jasmine Crockett, who I saw, where she was talking about going to her brow place, and the brow place said she had to lay off employees because people couldn't afford to get...
She said, my eyebrow technician said
people on SNAP couldn't get their brows done because the SNAP benefits and stuff. So basically, you're just using the SNAP money to get your brows done.
EBT card.
Right. Yeah. I know. It really pissed me off. And I was like, why are we not talking about this? Anyway, Grant Stinchfield, thank you so much. Colonel, thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
You guys we need to do this again soon. Let's do it. And by the way, don't forget, go over to DallasGOP.org and purchase your tickets for the gala if you're in town. We'd love to see you.
6th December.